Here I am sitting in the parking lot in Daytona Beach at the post office where I'm working for a couple of weeks. Nice, like 40-minute drive or so to get up here from where I live. Not too bad. Up I-4 at 70, 80 miles an hour, so it doesn't take too long. The other night, though, it was pretty tough on Monday. Drove up here, got here pretty early, too, a lot earlier than I should have, just to make sure, how long I was going to take to get here and everything. It was really foggy, and there was a fatal crash along I-4, so I left early to make sure there weren't any delays. And then I was out with the carrier who, went over 10 hours on their route and ended up working for like 12 and a half, 13 hours, and then drove home. Didn't get home until 9:30 at night. So that was kind of a long day, but that's kind of unusual. And Mondays tend to be a different thing sometimes at the post office compared to the rest of the week. But on my drive up here, was listening to a video by this British guy. I think his channel is something like the Philippines through the eyes of an expat or something like that. And he was talking about another American guy, like some 56-year-old guy, had gotten shot over in eastern Mindanao. Someone robbed him of his backpack or whatever, or his bag of some sort. That, I don't know if he had like 50,000 pesos or something like that in there. But shot him in the stomach, and later he died. But he was talking about life is cheap in the Philippines, and it is for sure, as we've talked about before. But it's not the only place it's cheap. Obviously, it's a lot cheaper in the Philippines in some ways than it is here in America. But life is cheap everywhere, not just over there. You can find plenty of neighborhoods, subcultures, whatever you want to say, where life is super cheap right here. You can be a convenience store clerk. Somebody walk in, blow you away so that they can get $30 out of the cash register, And they don't even think about it. They just shoot you. One advantage that we have over here is that we can carry a gun, as that guy was talking about over in the Philippines. He's had plenty of chances from people, who have offered him the chance to have a gun, and their guns are everywhere. I mean, there are all kinds. You talk about Mindanao or whatever, out in the mountains and in the Philippines, there's all kinds of illegal little shops cranking out, 1911 clones and stuff like that. Maybe crude, but as long as it shoots a bullet out the end, it'll kill you. It doesn't matter how crude it is. It might not be the most perfect, jam-free piece of high-tech equipment, running like a sewing machine or whatever. But all you need is a pipe and a bungee cord or a rubber band of some sort and a nail to puncture the primer to make a zip gun or something, and you can kill somebody. So it doesn't matter if it's crudely made or whatever, or cheap. Somebody points a gun at you, it doesn't have to be, a $4,000 2011 to make you dead. And there's plenty of them floating around the Philippines for sure. And when there are people who want guns, out of necessity, they're going to find a way to make their own if they have to. And certainly when you've got a lot of, terrorist groups affiliated with people there, different underground criminal organizations. The Philippines, like they say, is like 7,000 islands surrounded by water. There's plenty of ways to get whatever you want to in the country. They can't watch every single little kilometer of beach and shoreline in the whole country every day. You can. There's all kinds of stuff floating around over there, So if somebody wants to find a gun and kill you, for sure they could. You, of course, as a foreigner, you're not going to be able to get one. I mean, you can get one, but whether you want to do that and end up in prison in the Philippines for the rest of your life or something might not be such a great idea. And he was talking before, too, about the election over there and how there's a gun ban. People supposed to turn their registered firearms in to the PNP and then get them back after the election. Obviously, again, the criminals don't care about that shit. You know, they have an illegal gun. What are they going to do? Say, go turn it in the PNP and say, here, can you hold this for me till after the election? So, but I was thinking about that as I drove up here, that there's plenty of places here in America where life is cheap. You turn on the news every day and you see people getting blown away for no reason at all, or for just a couple of bucks, or because somebody, they feel, or even if they didn't, but they just feel like somebody dissed them by cutting them off in traffic or whatever. I was driving back home yesterday on I-4 down toward Orlando, you know, and I was in the left lane, and I was just taking my time getting back over into the middle lane because I didn't want to come back over too close in front of this person I had passed. And I was keeping an eye on the people in the far right lane to make sure none of them were going to try and cut out. And sure enough, just as I started to move over, somebody came in from that right lane, and I was already partway in the lane, and I had to come back over in the right. But then I went ahead and accelerated, pulled back over up ahead of them a bit, and I was watching in my mirrors a little bit, like looked like he was kind of like maybe thinking about following me or something. Eventually, you know, I got over in a different lane and went away, and he went his way. But I thought, man, is this guy going to, you know, try and come after me just because, you know, we were both going in the same lane at the same time? Not that, you know, not that that was a probable thing, but it's the kind of thing you learn to keep an eye out for, just because there are crazy people out here. You know, just something like two people both deciding they want to go in the same lane at the same time, and no intention of hurting anyone or being an asshole or whatever, and still there are people who take it the wrong way and just want to like get into a fight or kill people, you know? So you never know. You never know when you're going to piss off the wrong person and they're just going to be a lunatic. And as far as killing people for money, there's a lot of desperate people in the Philippines, you know, at least according to the, you know, that's what you hear all the time, the desperation of the poor. There are plenty of desperate people here in America too. And you never know if you're going to become one of those desperate people, depending on some kind of financial hardship or something. It doesn't take much to make somebody desperate. You know, you lose your job, have a family member with a lot of medical debt or something, and all kinds of bills to pay, and suddenly you're laid off or something and don't have a job and you can't pay your bills, and all that you can think about 24 hours a day is, damn, I'm going to be living in the street. How am I going to keep a roof over my family's head and get them some food? It doesn't take much to turn a supposedly civilized human being desperate. And then you got to deal with the people who, they're not desperate, they just like killing people. And it's not just the subcultures that involve, you know, like the lower echelon or whatever. You can go on YouTube and find people, even in our military and stuff, former military people, that if they're not talking about Jesus, their Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and how the only person they'll kneel for is Jesus, they're talking about how much they love killing people, you know? Playing the most dangerous game and being out there getting that adrenaline rush of kill or be killed. The only thing that gives them a bigger heart-on than Jesus is killing people, you know? There's a lot of people like that. And in every strata of society. So you never know when you're going to run into one of those people. They're just looking for an excuse, and they're in a situation where they think they can get away with it, and bam, you know? Maybe they've, you know, just haven't had a chance to kill somebody for a while, so you're the convenient target, and there you go. But life is cheap everywhere when you get right down to it. Here in America, most of us are insulated from it because most of the people that we hang out with have enough money to get by, and they don't have to steal and rob to pay the bills. But it's everywhere. Life becomes cheap whenever people become desperate. And that can happen to people anywhere. Even if 90% of the people where you live are not desperate and they've got everything they could possibly want and more, there's still another 5 or 10% that don't have that. And they look around and see the people who do have a lot, and there's a target-rich environment compared to someplace like the Philippines, where the vast majority of people maybe don't have much, and you just got a few people for them to pick from for their targets if that's what they want to do. Here in America, it's kind of the reverse situation, where the few percent of people who really are desperate and don't care and are perfectly willing to bust a cap in your ass, they have a lot of people to pick from. And that's really the reason why more of us here in America don't run into that part of, culture, or that, those groups in our society as much, is just because they have so many other easier targets perhaps than us to pick from, other more appealing targets. And so the vast majority of us, we don't have to see that, be exposed to that part of life the way a lot of people are. If you're somewhere where the numbers are reversed and the vast majority of the people are the ones who need to have, food on the table or whatever, or drugs for that day. Anyways, you always have to be aware, no matter where you live. It's easy to let your guard down and think, oh, where I am, there's nobody desperate enough or thinks that life is so cheap that they'll come after me. But it happens every day. You turn on the news, you see it everywhere. So keep your eyes open. Anyways, I like that channel, though. The Philippines through the eyes of an expat. And he has some pretty good videos out there, He's been living there for a while. Has some cool stuff sometimes. So just listening to that this morning got me thinking about all this. I guess now I'm going to go get to work.